Today's the day I'm doing the seal, and it should just be a case of mark this nut and the flange so it all goes back in the right place. Take this off, take this dust cover off, and then I can show you where the seal is. Just needs to get me by for, well, knowing me, a year or so, and yeah, then we'll plan some big upgrades when funds allow. So my plan is, I don't know if it's going to work, but axle stand under each side of the axle tube. It will lift the wheels off. That way, when I use the air gun on the nut, the wheels might spin a bit, but it should still hopefully undo. If not, I'm going to put a couple of bolts through and wedge a bar against the floor to stop it from turning. So we'll give that a go and see how that works. I could, worst case scenario, do this on the car. I can use the handbrake to lock the wheels. So I'll give this a go. If this doesn't work, I'll have to put the axle back in the car, which I was about to do anyway, and then go from there. So I'm going to switch you to head cam, and then we'll crack on. Cool, that's heavier than I thought. There we go, they're all, wheels are free to turn. So you can use paint, or, let's lift this up so you can see. You can do what I'm going to do and use a scraper and just scrape a nice mark into. Just make sure you're not just scraping off dirt and oil, and that you're actually marking the metal, which I am just I'm just scraping off dirt there. That's better. So you see, as I wipe that off there, you can actually see, hopefully there's a line there. It is a bit faint, but it is there. And then I'm also going to mark that flange as well. So normally I would use touch-up paint on that, but it's so cold today, I think if I was to use touch-up paint, it would probably take all day to go off. So I'm just going to gun this nut off, hopefully. Okay, that came off a little bit easier. Is it actually coming off? Yeah, it is. Well, that came off a little bit easier than I thought. Don't forget the lock washer. You don't want to lose that. Yeah, and then that should just carefully slide off. There we go. And I'll grab some blue roll. God, it stinks. So I'm just going to wipe excess off that flange there, and I just want to check. I don't know if you can see, there's actually quite a groove worn into that. So that could be part of my problem. If you've got too deep a groove there, then it is just it's gonna leak because the seal won't sit on it properly. So we'll see when we take it all apart. So the seal is just there, absolutely covered in dirt. So I need to get some tools to get that out. I don't think my little pick's going to be strong enough. Nope. So I'm going to go and get a screwdriver and carefully pry this seal out. Right. I might need two hands on this, but be careful not to damage the bearing. Ooh. There we go. Wow, that's this looks like someone's glued that in, if I'm honest. That is covered in oil. It's definitely where the leak was coming from, because this section here should be dry or dryish, and it's absolutely covered. But it's rock hard, absolutely solid. That is. Feels like plastic. And again, I'm just going to feel that for any ridges or anything. If if the old seal had been turning, which I think is highly unlikely, or there was previous, whoever put it in last had got some dirt in it, it could have scored it, but it feels alright. So right, next thing I need to do then is put the new seal back in. So it's not square, I'm going to try and get it into square, and then just carefully, don't want to damage it. I'm going to use the socket to, I think I might need a bigger socket. Yep, I need a bigger socket. I'm finding a socket that's the same size as the seal, or sort of the outside of the seal, and then just gently tap it in. Right, so I've got a socket here which is 1 13/16, which is just slightly smaller than the outside of the seal. And if you can see the clean patch in there, we literally just want the seal to run up to the front edge of this. So that's where the old one was. So line that up there, and then we're just going to gently tap it in and try and keep it square. And I'll just keep stopping and checking, make sure the bottom doesn't go in before the top. So here now, that bit there is almost flush, and I don't know if you can see it sticking out a bit there, so we'll concentrate there a bit more. Yeah, bottom's flush. Just I think another tap at the top. That's it. There we go, smooth all the way along. If that's wrong, put a note in the comments. That's how the old one was, and I've never seen another one different to that, so I'm pretty happy with that. Right, so we need to make sure we know where our markings are, so I'm just going to double check that I can see that perfectly well on that, and on the nut it's there. So we had a marking as well on the shaft, which is just there. So while I can see that, let's make sure we line that back up. So I don't know if this makes any difference at all. It's good if, like me, you're not replacing the bearings, and you can, that's it, and you can line everything back up perfectly and know that it's not over torqued. So there's my marking there, and there's my marking on there. So I'm going to, there we go. I'm just going to put the gun on number 1, the lowest setting, and just really carefully, that's just, see that does line up there. Okay, there we have it. And I know a lot of you will argue that using an air gun, even on its lower setting, is the wrong way of torquing that up. So that is the differential input oil seal changed, and I know there'll be a lot of you probably arguing that I shouldn't have tightened it up with an air gun, even if it's on its lowest setting. If you look up the torque settings for the input when you're doing an oil seal change, it tells you just to adjust it to preload. I can't do that. I don't have any equipment for tightening up to preload or for measuring preload, and which is why I've marked the why I marked the nut and the input and the flange, just so that everything goes back exactly how it was in exactly the same position. I'm planning to get a spare axle case and clean it all up, get a limited slip diff for it, and then just swap the axles over at a later date. I don't know when that'll be. At the moment I seem like I'm hemorrhaging money on this thing. I've got other issues as well. The head gasket, I'm pretty sure, has failed. I did a sniff test a little while back, or a few days ago. That came up green, which means there is carbon monoxide in the coolant. Obviously it's K series, that's normal. I do have a spare one, but because I want to turbo that, I'm now going to have to save up at some point soon, get some forged pistons and com rods, swap them into it so that it's ready to turbo. I probably won't be able to afford to turbo it straight away because I've got to do all new aftermarket engine management and all the stuff like that. But yeah, so that's the oil seal on an MG Midget rear axle. Thanks for watching. Next time you see this, hopefully it'll be back in the car. And make sure you subscribe, like the video, and I'll catch you next time.